they just like moved right after I got there, and I think somebody was really upset because they hadn't told us beforehand. And they found out they were leaving the day they were leaving, and everyone's like,
But like I heard your architecture and like design is very, very beautiful.
Thank you. It is. It's like it's meant for collaborative, like a collaborative work environment.
Yeah, I'm gonna push Sanchia and finance to do that here.
Yeah.
I'm already pushing them to make a garden in their room. So.
Oh, that would be pretty cool.
dude, do you realize we tried having one plant there and it died? It was a cactus.
I will water them all.
It was a cactus. A cactus didn't make it. What happens when you're on the night shift? Who is watering these plants? No, but I remember like the New York space was so open. I didn't realize like Chicory was a different company. I thought they were a part of NewsSpread, and then eventually at some point like somebody was like, oh yeah, they don't work at NewsSpread. I said hi to a lot of them. You got
It's a
it.
good place for networking. You get fired from one, you can join the other.
They won't even know. They'll just be like, oh, you must have been here from the start.
Is this everyone or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I wanted to get this together, make it more of like an informal setting, to go over, for one reason or another, there's a lot of things that get funneled through me. We're working on making me not be the bottleneck anymore. But there are some tickets that get funneled that are tickets that you guys end up having to do discovery on, but on the operations team, we already know what the issue is. So I think this session will be good for you to get that knowledge and be like, oh, like this is how to troubleshoot that ticket without having to raise the issue or waste time waiting for myself or someone else to work on it. So I guess we can pair play. This is Krypton, Middle Earth.
How
Yes,
many?
it's hot. Krypton's upstairs.
There you go.
All right. So on instance-related issues, the instance state, so orphaned, expired, sandbox. On orphan state, that means the instance was created and was not tied to a sales order in NetSuite. This is something that finance will have to take care of, because even if we try to reassociate that instance to a sales order, that's where we run into the issues where you can't create labels. So if this was to ever happen, this request is mostly fulfilled by Jeff and Dominique now. Just let them know that they have to delete that instance, create a new sales order, create the instance from within that record, and thereby it's never going into orphan state and then into production. It's automatically going into a production state, and then that will solve that issue.
Okay. Which comes first, NetSuite record, then you
NetSuite,
create it?
yep.
So sometimes you create an instance, but NetSuite record is never created. Then this thing.
So if there's times where we'll get a request and we'll look inside of NetSuite and we won't see the instance or the CMC instance record. That's because 9 times out of 10, it's a sandbox instance. So it was created directly into the CDB. So we have no visibility into that. And that's where there's been a few tickets where we've had to create a new production instance, and then someone on the Skynet team has to merge them in the back end.
Skynet does this.
Or Skynet or
Internet.
someone.
Does that, yeah.
Someone.
Yeah,
So like you
it's
hear all the
pretty
stuff about
complicated.
moving everything from one instance to
Because
the
I
other.
thought BI team did that.
The team doesn't have that
We
kind
have,
of access.
we have, they looked us in a channel, but
But they can't populate the same P that way. I don't think they have anything that lets you populate the same P with everything.
Yeah.
But sandbox instances like essentially get created a lot on request from like AMs and TCs.
Yeah. We're starting to change the process where anytime a sandbox instance is needed,
Mhm.
that theoretically means that we're giving access to the client for free. But historically, we haven't had a paper trail to like a contract with the client. So now legal is having them sign a contract with the services we're providing. So obviously access to the CMP and whatever like technical advisory services. So that means there'll be an opportunity in Salesforce. And for that, now we're also creating a $0 sales order in NetSuite,
Okay.
which will then trigger the creation of a production instance, which will mitigate the issue of having to merge them if they do end up becoming a client in the end.
Oh, so there will never be a sandbox instance anymore.
There shouldn't. And if you guys get any requests to create a demo instance, have whoever's requesting that send an email to finance@newscred.com, and then we'll work with legal to ensure that
But
There's paperwork.
when someone asks for creating the demo instance or something, so we used to email AR, right?
Yeah.
everyone on the finance team has access to the AR inbox. But the only people that are actually in the AR inbox every day is Dominique and Jeff.
Okay.
So if they're not in, then there's that lapse, whereas the finance literally sends everyone gets the email.
Got it.
Parent-child relationships. So that is all handled from within NetSuite. On the CMC instance record in NetSuite, that's the whole parent-child. That's pretty simple there. We are, the last time, Sydney and Mira over here in April, we had a bunch of sessions with them as well as Zahid and Dedacious, and basically gathered a bunch of requirements and have proposed to Imran and TK a path forward where this is actually handled self-servicely through the product. So the client would be able to do that. So those are ongoing talks. So hopefully by Q4, that's on someone's roadmap. But until then, keep sending finance@newscred.com.
So, sorry, what would the clients would be able to do?
They would be able to associate their parent and child, their local and global regions.
By themselves.
So,
By
but
themselves.
the instances has to be created from our end first, then they can.
Exactly. Yep. This will also help when it comes to, because right now, like a client can purchase Marketplace 20 and have 3 different instances.
Mhm.
Right now, we don't have the ability for them to say, okay, I have these 3 instances, but I only want instance A and B to be able to publish up to 10, and the instance to be able to publish 10. So we have no way to do that. That will help
Okay.
that become a reality.
So they can associate marketplace to
One
their
instance.
channel
Yep.
instances.
And then they can, and the same can be said for the budget, because right now we're going to budget tracker issues, which is another monster within itself.
So like the marketplace will be available for both the instances. Like if they have Forbes in parent instance, that will be automatically available in the child instance.
Yep.
Right now, this is happening.
Right now that's happening.
But then when that comes, they will be able to delete some of the sources
Yep.
from their channel instances.
Yep. Instance creation, pretty simple. We already talked about it. Churn customers. So expired state means the instance is tied to a sales order that has expired. So if Hershey has a contract that runs through June 31st and they haven't renewed that contract yet, on July 1st, it goes into expired state. there used to be, they used to log in and then get a message that their contract has lapsed, and then in 90 days it would auto terminate and they wouldn't have access to the instance anymore. We've removed that. Anytime a client actually churns, legal sends us an email, we go and actually deactivate the instance from within NetSuite. But there are times where there's a renewal in flight. So July 1st, the contract still hasn't signed, but they haven't decided that they're not going to renew. It's just ongoing conversations. So that's the issue we had last night with
SAP.
Yep, SAP.
Yeah.
Yep, yeah. Ideally, finance doesn't want to have to create a $0 sales order for the gap between the expiration of the previous sales order to the start of the new sales order.
Yeah.
But we don't, I don't know any implications that the expired state has from a product level.
So sometimes in the CDD, like we sometimes see that instance state is expiring. So why is that state expiring? Like in the 5th COE, the expiry date was like March 31, 2019. But when I checked on like June 11, I have seen that that's expiring. So shouldn't it be expired or?
So expiring was a state that used to be in effect. It was, so when we had it being auto terminated after 90 days, the day the contract ended, it would go from production to expiring, and then it'd be expiring until the 90th day, where then it would go into expired. So it shouldn't, you shouldn't see that anymore moving forward for any new deals. But that's the issue.
So it's gonna be from production to expired
Correct.
right away. So
Yep.
there are no 90 days.
No 90 days window.
No more. The issue with that was there were renewals in flight that were taking more than 90 days, and then we're hurting the relationship by just like automatically turning it off and not letting them know. So legal put in the request to have that changed. I forgot who worked on it. Maybe it was Demasius or Shuel.
But we will send the notification to the client, right? Like your contract will be elapsed within 30 days.
So
Is there any time?
So we're not forcing the deactivation of the instance anymore at any juncture. The only way an instance is terminated is someone on the finance team has to go into NetSuite and click the on hold button, and that's only happening once legal sends the notification that the client churned.
So when an instance goes to expired state, they can no longer able to publish in.
Correct. They have no access to.
So right now, but in the expiring state, they can.
Correct.
So don't you think that would bring that same problem again?
So theoretically, I know Elena's team, the analytics team, put in a request for us to go into NetSuite and clean up all of the instances that have churn that were marked on hold. So Jeff and Dominique were working on that. So theoretically, there should be no more as of today, like any expiring state. And if there are, then we should probably then run a report of all the expiring state ones and see whether they actually did churn, and then we can mark them as on hold and expired. And if not, then they should have a new sales order, and that would mean we'd have to figure out why it's not picking up the new details. So the concurrency limit. So this was an issue from the CMP is pinging NetSuite. It was pinging NetSuite every second. And we have other integrations with NetSuite for the finance team, like MineralTree and Expensify, that also tries to talk to NetSuite. And we're only allowed 5 calls at any given time. So we kept hitting our concurrency limit. So I had to work on moving it from every second to once an hour. So any change in the past that we made would have been in real time. Now any change we make, so like if you make a request to deactivate an instance, in the past, once I wrote you and said, okay, it's been done, you were able to check in real time and say it's done, right? Now it's once an hour. So if the request comes in at 9:24,
It will be completed on 10:24.
it's the 36th minute of every hour. So if it came in at 9:24 and we made the change in time at 9:36, you would see the update. But if the request came in at 9:37, then it would be 10:36. So it's every hour. So that's just gives you an update there. Budget tracker. I'm hoping one day we actually just sunset this because there's so many issues with it. The BI team and myself did a great deal of discovery when we were building out the data map. So budget tracker, there's a couple issues. Using DirecTV as an example, that was a huge issue for more than one reason.
Yeah, we received a lot of tickets
Yeah.
from them regarding budget tracker.
Yep. So the way the code works is initially it takes the sales order, right? So if I have a client that buys Content Studio,
I think Blackbeard wrote that.
if I have Content Studio for 100,000, standard pulls in 100,000, right? Then when I come to renewal time, and I only use 90,000 of that 100,000.
You still have 10,000 left.
Exactly. So, but since this is pulling from the NetSuite sales order level, on the renewal contract, we're not putting that we're charging them 110,000, right? We're only putting that where they're renewing flat at 100,000, but giving them access to 110,000. But since it's calling this field, contract A, renewal, it's only going to show the 100,000, right? So the workaround to have it reflect 110 was going in and doing the manual adjustment, which would then show at 110,000, right? All good. But then the next time they renewed, since we did the manual adjustment, it supersedes any sales order logic, and another manual adjustment would have to be done, and another one, and another one.
This cycle
just
continues until
Exactly.
we all die.
Exactly. So 90% of the time, Content Studio is not going to be right, and 90% of the time, the solution is always having to have to do a manual adjustment, which is something finance has to do because it's done within NetSuite. The second issue, using DirecTV again. DirecTV and AT&T TechBuzz both fall under AT&T, right? So TechBuzz and DTV. Two separate instances, two separate sales orders. The logic that goes into what gets shown in each instance, again, is pulling from the sales order in NetSuite. And I do this. slight lag. All right, so the budget tracker is looking for this item, Content Studio content. And then historically, prior to the BI team doing the discovery, the finance team wasn't aware of this part of the logic, is if this is left blank, that means any instance tied to the company, so AT&T, will have access to the shared budget. So since that was left blank, AT&T TechBuzz had access to the 624,000
No, they
Okay.
got
plus whatever they had on their sales order,
huge.
which was causing the issue. So now, so long as finance knows that obviously this keeps it super simple, DirecTV versus TechBuzz, where it gets complicated. Actually, yeah, never mind. I take that back. So now we're filling that out, but that's
So now,
the shared instance. But
Since now only DirecTV will be able to see it.
now DirecTV will only be, since we put a unique value,
Right.
only DirecTV
Right,
has
right.
access to it. And then you'll see on the AT&T side, they have their unique value.
Uh-huh.
So they have 32,000, whatever it was.
Yeah.
So that was the issue there. But that was only a subset of the issue because there was a manual adjustment done to this DirecTV instance as well, which is why it was showing at 400,000 and not 600,000.
Right.
So that's that issue. Manual adjustments, DirecTV. I think that's all the budget tracker issues. Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So Generali has like 20 instances. And as you can see, we only have the ability to associate one instance to one line item level. And theoretically, they can say, for these 5 instances, I only want them to have access to this amount of what I purchased 100,000, right? But I only want Generali France to have 25,000 of that, Generali Germany to have 25,000, and Italy, so on and so forth. We don't have the ability to show that because it's a one-to-one relationship, and we don't want to.
But wait, hold on. If Generali has 20 instances, isn't that like 20 sales orders?
Not necessarily, because like in November of 2018, they signed a deal where they bought 5 additional instances. So that's one sales order with 5 CMP line items. So you can have multiple line items on one sales order, and it works out for the CMP because we're charging per CMP. But we're only creating one budget line item because they're purchasing budget and it's budget.
Why not just have like 5 line items, each with like 20,000, 20,000 and that?
We could, and that's what we've been doing, but it's a Band-Aid fix because what that does, and the same thing for creating like $0 CMP line items, is we can't accurately report then the average price that we're selling CMP for, the average Content Studio budget, because it's been distorted too many times. So that's the issue with that. But that has been the Band-Aid fix. But that just puts the pressure on, that moves the issue away from it being a client issue to an internal issue, which is what we want. But it's still like an
Why
issue.
aren't you moving away from NetSuite?
So we want to. Obviously with Shell and the other 2 IME clients, there are resources to work on like fixing these issues. And we have workarounds in place to mitigate the issues until then. But NetSuite is not designed to handle how we're using it. It should never have been used to create instances or budget tracker. But at the time, like it fit the use cases, but as we're moving into the IME world, those use cases didn't exist back then, and now we're facing the issues.
So what's the alternative to NetSuite? What should we be doing?
So the proposals that we've all put forward in our ongoing discussions is making everything like we don't want NetSuite to be the trigger. We don't care if the information lives in NetSuite. We just don't want it to be the trigger. So we want the product to be the trigger, and then the product to just write that information back into NetSuite, and then we can tie product data to customer data that way, rather than having it be flipped.
So right now the data flow is from NetSuite, it's going into the product, but you want to reverse that so that you make all creation and everything in the product, and then it's going to send it all to NetSuite, and like if it pans out, then the connections meet. Otherwise, you get it.
Exactly, and that moves more towards like a self-service model where the client can go in and make changes and allocate budget however they want in real time and not have to create support tickets and things like that. So in the long run, it will create leverage for everyone. Yeah. I think that's all I had. So do you guys have any questions that I didn't cover that you wanted to cover?
From budget track?
Anything, any common customer support ticket that I end up getting tagged on.
Well, not about customer support.
Instance names and stuff like that. but-
Oh, changing instance names, that's.
Tracking history for some of those things. I think just in general, like there's no paper trail of requests that we're getting
This is
or
the-
any requests for change.
One humongous problem that we face, at least I face, is that sometimes, usually Tommy or Matt's gonna send a ticket and they're gonna talk about one instance, and then I go into CDB and I can't even find that instance. I don't know where that came from. Like, so that was most likely an instance, like it was probably some demo instance which got renamed. But is there a way to track like what was the original name, what was it renamed to, then
So
that renamed to?
I think
we
maybe
do, like we can't easily, we can, right? Because in order to change the name, you have to go into NetSuite, you go to the instance record, click edit, and then if I wanted to get rid of current, just backspace, press save, and it's been changed. And that change would then be reflected in the system notes within NetSuite. But there is no way to make that, the only way to make that information public without you having to
Go into NetSuite.
go into NetSuite is for somehow the BI team or someone to have this go into the data pipeline or the data warehouse, which then can go into Periscope.
And then we can check. Like,
Yeah.
so that would like simplify it.
So the thing is, in the past, Devashish or Zahid used to change these things, and we used to create a Jira ticket for them. So we could check in the Jira. So you guys are not in Jira, right?
I always, it's, no, I always get the Jira emails and then I get so many emails during the day that I forget until someone actually pings me on Slack. Like that's when I'm like, oh shit, I have a Jira ticket, let me go.
So, how are you getting these requests to change instance names?
So I get tagged on Jira, but then like you'll Slack me, like, oh, I just,
Or Slack?
yeah, they'll be like, oh, you were just tagged in this Jira ticket, and then we're going and making
Okay.
the change.
But we're not seeing any instance name change requests that many, but they are getting changed. So so are people personally reaching out to you for
There
that?
are some times where like the AM or like the technical consultant will reach out to us directly. I'm fine with, for changes like that, they should know already to just come to us directly. I can work with,
So should we reach out to you to figure out if the instance name has changed?
for now, you'll have to reach out to me because it's not being pulled into the data pipeline, so it's not in Periscope, which is fine. But I can work with Zaima to draft an email to send out to the broader team.
But like the changes that you make,
Mhm.
does it come to any Slack channels?
if we make any change to the instance, it's going into the new instance of Rabbits.
Yes,
So-
even if you change the name.
Yep, so you'll see what it looks like. There's a really bad lag. So, like this one, it used to be called this, it's been crossed out, and now it's named this.
Okay. Oh,
So we can,
Nice.
I just,
So this is real time, but again, you'd have to
as
like.
you can see, I already left the channel.
But yeah,
That's
that's.
why you don't know.
Yeah, I've been there, but all this information were like clouding my Slack. I didn't know what to do with it.
I essentially joined this because like Supporto still like new instances don't have access right away. So Marwa and all of these people are like watching this channel to add on anyone that's
Yeah, this has a 24-hour lag, so like these were actually created on the 12th, and these were actually created on the 5th, so on and so forth. Were changed.
But better than never knowing.
That's true.
I almost okay, let me do a quick query. Okay,
But yeah, we can work together to draft an email to resend to the entire company on this is what you should do. If you want this request, just go directly to
Is
here. If you want this, here.
Yeah, I think that'll
That will
be.
clear up a lot of tickets.
Because I feel like we're getting a lot of requests from TCs and like mainly it should just be funneled to you guys because there's literally like just sort of bouncing it off of our team onto yours.
Yeah.
So that's
And-
worth
yeah.
having conversation.
And then it's distorting your ticket times
it
because
comes-
we're not responding
Yeah,
But
no, I mean,
right away.
it's a public channel, you don't have to be in the
oh, you don't
channel.
have to be in it? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's perfect. No, I think for us essentially like it just means that our tickets are, like we respond to them within the first 20 minutes, but they're staying open for a lot longer if
Yeah.
you want them to be.
Okay, we can then if we get requests like this and we don't know what its former name was, we can do a Slack query and we can find out.
Yep, so but yes and no, because this only went into effect
24 hours.
February,
Okay,
March,
yeah.
March. So anything prior to March, you'd have to reach out to me. But,
This solves the issue that
Yep.
is for them.
yeah, this was built by Ron.
Who?
Ron. from
Oh,
the team.
Ron.
Yeah, I remember like telling us that Rahat and some Rashid, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's-
They were
Yeah, it's in-
there's only two of them there.
And then I'm curious, we do have like the way information flows. It's like this is heavily focused on like internal systems and the way information is flowing from like Salesforce and NetSuite into different things. But you can see how things like there's a couple of weeks before it goes into Periscope and so on and so forth. There's like no direct connection between NetSuite and CDB. It goes into this and then into that,
It goes into what?
This is
and then into CDB, and then that creates the instance. Same thing for
this looks like electric circuit.
NetSuite is now driving source permissioning automatically. So when
Oh.
someone buys Marketplace, there's a specific field that needs to be filled out by the finance team that then automatically gives access to the sources. And then I think John did a session yesterday on source permissioning. Right now it's just, I don't know how I got, it fell onto my plate, but any custom source permissioning happens directly inside the CDB, which then goes into the CMP. Yeah, so I can share this with you guys, and then it has other like field dictionaries, handy Confluence pages, fields being referenced within like the code, like instance creation, just referencing this record inside of NetSuite, but more specifically this field, so it's going to that level of granularity, which is how we uncovered most of the things like that weren't being filled out, which was causing some of the issues. And now we've put some data governance in effect to make sure it is being filled out, so this way that the turncoat can operate as efficiently as possible. And then the same thing, what fields are being referenced in Periscope reports, so this way, prior to this, we couldn't say if we had any validity in those reports because there obviously wasn't validity in those reports because the fields weren't being referenced correctly. Yeah, they definitely did a lot of work that is helping out today. Any other items? Oh, yeah, so we went over instance naming.
One more. That is, this came back, it's not strictly related to support, but I was like really interested in this one. Which is, machines are getting old.
I'm so tired of seeing the rainbow spin.
It's just a login. That's why I never shut the lid. Then it works like much faster. So basically the problem was, so on Periscope, for a lot of the squad dashboards, they're fetching incorrect data.
Yep.
I think you were tagged in that.
Yep, that's
Whole
another
conversation.
Jira ticket that got tagged in.
Yeah.
It's so hard to follow the Jira tickets because you have to actually click in because the email, it's like so many conversations are happening. But so with that, that's part of the, so as we're building out new infrastructure within Salesforce, historically, the program squad has been on the program object. And since I've been,
Program squad? You mean the telco and the tech squad? There's a program
So,
squad?
maybe that's,
There's a what squad?
Program squad? I thought there was tech, telco, then pharma.
oh yeah, so that's like the program squad is the squad it belongs to. The program was an object within Salesforce, which kept the records that the squads were using to reference and so on and so forth. So the fields on the program object were being pulled into NetSuite, into Periscope.
Periscope, yeah.
And since I was working with the CS team, we've sunset the program object and are now using the opportunity record. So the BI team has to go and update the dashboards. Shuel has already updated the CMMI tool because that was pushing into the CMMI score into the program record. Now it's updated to push into the opportunity. Then Kashvia was exporting like JavaScript status and weekly average users and something else, and then manually manipulating the data and uploading it to the opportunity object. And then Rashad and Rahat built a tool to automate the process. So long story short, we've changed the way Salesforce is run. So it's no longer, we're just having to iterate the reports as fast as we can. Awesome. Perfect. Perfect.
I was wondering why he's awake right now.
It's like six o'clock.
5?
5. He has a kid.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's true.
Yeah.
True.
It's the time
Not
to
even
get up.
questioning it anymore.
But yeah, let's see if there's any other Jira tickets I can take down.
I don't even think that was a Jira ticket. That was a conversation in the BI channel.
Well, yeah, because the Jira and Confluence are like the same. There's this. Awesome. So if there's any other questions, feel free to ping me. We'll work together to draft up that email. So this way that should alleviate some of the tickets that get funneled to you. And as we start implementing changes to instances and budget tracker, I'll make sure that you guys are kept in the loop.
Mhm.
And yeah. Perfect. Nice guys.
Thanks for having a presentation for us.
No problem.
It's easier.